G'day guys, it's Calvin from the Cartoon Company. I was going to have a bit of a video about alternators and alternator wiring, but I've lifed through a bit of a curveball. I was going to do it because I have a 2006 LS430 or Celsior in my shop that I towed in this morning. When I went to get it, the man had just changed the batteries from one that was flat to a fully charged battery. While we're sitting there talking, it started to smoke out from the alternator. So I calmly removed the battery terminal, because generally when smoke comes out of electronics, it's a bad thing and they often don't kind of work. A lot of people think the smoke's what makes them work, and I'd kind of agree, because when the smoke gets out, the components stop working. And it happens to be the other alternator rather than the normal round plug. Normal round plug one. Or the oval plug one. Rectangular plug, if you want to call it rectangular. It's not any of those. It happens to be the computer controlled one with the square plug. So instead, we're going to do a video on how to change the alternator on a LS430. Or a Celsior. This is a 2006. I was hoping it was going to be like a GS430 that has no power steer pump. They've got the electronic power steer rack, but it's not one of those. But it still does look quite straightforward. So let's get into it. And this is how you change the alternator on a 2006 Celsior or LS430. So the car runs the 3UZ. 4.3. It's like a 1UZ but bigger. Very, very similar dimensionally. This car's a 2006 Celsior. It's must have done a bit over 100,000 Ks because it's got a cambout sticker saying it was done at 102. So the first thing I did is I've stacked it up on the hoist. Doesn't sound quite right. I stacked it carefully on the hoist. And some guys around the world, you might call it a car lift. Well, it's a thing that takes the car and it lifts it off the ground, makes it easier to work on. If you don't have a car lift, then you're going to be using jacks and axle stands to safely lift it up. And I've removed the big plastic cover off the bottom. We can actually look in from the top, and you can't see the alternator. It's down there, okay, underneath the power steer pump, and that stinks. Oh. Smells like something's been on fire down there. And yes, the battery is disconnected. Now, towing it in, it was a bit dusty. We've actually done a forensic test and proven that this man has a cat that's been walking down his windscreen, which he didn't know until, and actually look all over the roof. You probably can't see it so well, but there has been a bloody cat walking all over the roof of this car. The things you see when it's dusty. So here we are under the car. It's going to be a little bit dark doing this video, sorry, but here's the alternator right here. Okay, now you saw that I disconnected the battery up the top. Kind of needed to be, because that was the only way to stop it from smoking. So our goal is to remove that alternator and put it on the bench. Really straightforward. Let's get into it. First I'm going to flick off the accessory belt. It's a 14mm spanner. And I can just reach up. It's on a spring tensioner. And out it comes. If you're unsure of the routing of the belt, I probably should do that for you as well. I think I've got a 3UZ here. What have I got under here? Oh, I've got a 3UZ, but it's got a different tensioner on it. And I've taken the pulley off there. Anyway, belt's pretty straightforward. You'll get the idea. Round the air conditioning pump, round the idler there, around the crankshaft, around the tensioner, around the alternator, up to the power steering, and then around the top idler. I've actually got my alternator only tensioner on there that I use when I'm not running all the other accessories. So just doing that again. We'll start at the top tensioner, or top idler, down to the air conditioning pump, up to the idler, which is where the hydraulic fan pump is on the early ones, down, round the crankshaft, up to the tensioner, down to the alternator, up to the power steering, and then back up to that top tensioner, top idler bearing. Next, I'm going to do the bottom tensioner, the bottom pivot bolt. And it's got the bracket on it that runs all the wiring underneath the engine. So I probably should be checking the alternator fuse as well. So there's your main power supply going up to the battery. It goes through a alternator fuse as well in the fuse box. Right, it's out of the way. And we're just going to go up, we pull back this little rubber booty. Slide that down. And it's going to have a 12 mil on it. And I might use a short spanner as well, just in case. So up we go. Now I'm holding the wiring loom so that doesn't spin the whole base of the alternator, the bottom bolt. That goes inside the alternator, so you're only spinning the nut off the top. We'll flick that out of the way. Right, I'm going to get rid of this bracket here too. It's got a 10 mil bolt on it. And we're going to unplug the alternator main, the supply plug, or the control wires. It's got a boot over top of it. It's got a little tag. And so that's the 4-wire computer controlled alternator. Just going to tuck that out of the way for the moment. Right, then we've got a bracket that comes across the front and there's a pivot bolt on top. So the bracket that comes across the front is a 12 millimeter. The early 3UZ alternators aren't computer controlled, so I use them in the conversions a bit, but the later ones certainly are. Right, we've got that top bolt left. And I think this power bar, small power bar, is going to be the go. Now this is a 14 millimeter. Now that has got a big long stud, so hopefully we've got enough room to slide this alternator out. I actually think dropping a sway bar might be a good idea as well. Yep, we'll see how we get on. No, I think I'm just going to drop it anyway. And then I'm undoing 2 sway bar mount brackets, just 2 12mm headed bolts on each side. And that can just hang down. Hopefully now I've got enough room just to slide this alternator out, and out it comes. So there we go. One alternator, computer controlled, and it doesn't smell healthy at all. That's pretty straightforward. Now to find another one and get it sorted. So here's the alternator itself, and I pulled the back cover off, and I'm pretty sure that this will be the cause here of my burning smell. Looks different to that one. Here we go. And in fact, this whole piece here has had a fry up. So I'm actually not that keen to... Oh, that one's going on its way too. There we go. I'm not actually that keen to rebuild this one, just because of that damage, but we'll see what we can get. So here we have a new alternator, or a replacement alternator. Fortunately, brand new units weren't available easily over here. So this is a rebuilt one with all new interiors, everything in there, but the regulator comes out the top now, the plug. So hopefully that'll fit in. So let's see if I can get this unit into the car. Slide it up and pop it on that stud. So that doesn't fit as it is. I'm going to need to make a couple of changes. I'm not sure what though. Back of that power steer pump needs to be taken off. So alternators are fouling just here, so I shall fix it. A couple of moments work on the back of that power steer pump, and I hope this will fit in now. So up we go. Give it that bottom radiator hose, find the stud. Kind of got to feel around with your fingers a little bit to find the stud, and pop it on the hole, and it just sort of slides in, and hopefully this plug will now clip in. It slides on okay, and it looks like this bracket is going to bolt in okay. Clip, and you hear it click in. So I'm pretty happy with that. I can even get the rubber boot back over the plug. There's a bit of protection on there. With the alternator plugged in, with the control wires plugged in, we're going to put the main power wire on, and that'll fit right in to the little grooves. And again, when we do it up, make sure that the whole stud doesn't turn. So make sure that's nice and tight, but don't go over tightening and breaking stuff. Bottom pivot bolt, top bolt, top nut on the stud, should have put some lube on this bottom one. Lube always makes things go in better. And this other stud on the little front there. Watch your knuckles. I could feel my knuckles going past that crankshaft pulley. And do that nut up there. That needs just a nip. Oh, that's the alternator fitted there. Let's see if I can put a fan belt on. A fan belt. A drive belt. From the bottom. Right, we're going around that top idler. Make sure we get it in the grooves. Coming out to the power steer. Good so far. Around the alternator. Up to the tensioner. We might just do that. We'll come around to the air conditioning. Up to that idler. Just going to pop our fingers in and check it sits into the top grooves on that top idler properly. I am on my tippy toes because I'm a short prick. Ah, my bench is too far away. Doesn't move. 14mm spanner. I can see that tensioner. Back goes the tensioner. And I've just slipped it around that crankshaft pulley. I'm just going to double check I've got it on that top idler properly. We're just going to push it back on the other idler. That'll straighten up once it runs anyway. Right, alternator fitted. Before I do the underbody cover and the sway bar, I'm going to test it. I did have the bonnet lifted, but it keeps falling down. So we're just going to put a bit more support in there, because I really don't want this bonnet falling on my head. Just a 10mm spanner and reattach the battery. Key's off, it's sitting on the roof. There's no sparks. Now when I watched the man put it on earlier, a couple of days ago, when he was changing the battery, it gave quite a spark up, so I'm thinking it was just the alternator that's failed. I've tested the battery, I've fully charged this battery. There's not much else I can check. So I'm thinking it's just an alternator that has failed. So let's fire it up. So far so good. Starts good. No warnings. We have a battery light, so that's good. And we got a 14-volt charge. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to put the sway bar up. Put that underbody cover on. when you put the sway bar on, it's a little bit easier with the second person. You've got to pull it forward as well because it's going to try and slip back. And then we put these guards in, and make sure that you put the guard underneath the outer guard, and it's got the self-tapping type screws at the front and the proper threaded ones at the back. Right, this big cover going on. Hold up. There you have it, changing the alternator on an LS430 or Celsior. So I hope that's been helpful, and we'll talk to you again.